that the bank is now not in charge, you have a delinquency. So it's very important. If you have refinanced and changed the bank you're doing business with, or if you were able to pay off your mortgage, we must be notified. So please, okay? Very important. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mecca.
Any questions? Anybody? No set?
Thanks so much. Thanks, Mr. Mecca. Mr. Noto?
Briefly, Mr. Supervisor, an issue near and dear to your heart. As you know, we have recommended to Assemblyman Latimer and Senator Oppenheimer changes in the RPTL and the certiorari law. Last week, Assemblyman Latimer did forward to me, which I did circulate, his proposed draft. It is not a statewide bill. It is a town of Rye only bill, and it does do the three things we asked, which is advance the note of issue, dismiss petitions for failure to file an I&E, and give the 3-year limitation for a community that has a full value. So
3-year.
3-year
freeze on the petitions. They can't file for 3 years
Right.
to be settled. Mr. Markowitz is reviewing it, so I just want to get his input, and then I will inform Mr. Latimer that it's okay to submit to the Assembly. Then it will go to the Senate. We'll look at a number, and then hopefully by June it'll pass.
Wow.
Well,
If we pass that, that's going to be huge.
well, it would be significant for us. It will not have a statewide impact.
All right,
It's a
everybody
town
else
only.
can.
But for us, it would be a step in the right direction.
Oh, so you're saying, just to be absolutely clear, if we're successful, and I guess I presume it was tactics to do it just down the road, which is fine with me, which is fantastic. When somebody brings a certiorari claim, it will have to be settled in what time period?
Well, we would have the option of forcing them to file a note of issue within 6 months, and then they would have 6 months to file it. So instead of the 4 years to bring it,
Right.
they'd have to bring it within 1.
Right.
And that's our option.
Yeah.
Second issue is if they don't file the I&E, which we have a local law, then their petition can be dismissed.
Beautiful.
Right. And thirdly, it will have a 3-year freeze on a settlement, so they can't refile every year.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now,
Well, these are the three things that we thought were good, and ORPS, as you know, drafted some language for which we put into a resolution, which we then sent to the Assembly and the State Senate.
Well, if we could get this in by June.
Well, just so you understand how the state legislature works, or doesn't work, yeah. From January to March is budget, and they're supposed to have a budget adopted by April 1st. They never do, or they rarely do. So right now they're in the throes of a budget process, which, as you know, the state is unsustainable, to use your term, and it's a $9 billion deficit and climb. Between April and June, when the session ends for the summer, they tend to work on other bills, local bills, things of that nature. So the likelihood is a bill like this would be adopted, if adopted, at the end of June, at the very end of the session, when they do a lot of that work. So again, if it is adopted, which we hope it is, it has to go through both chambers, and then the governor would have to sign it to become law.
But you think there's a chance it could happen by end of June?
Well, there's a chance, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's being introduced. It's a local bill, so it would attract less opposition
Right.
from the trial lawyers and the attorneys who bring certs,
Well,
other than those who practice certioraries against the town of Rye.
so we should keep it quiet.
Well, it won't be that quiet. They'll find it. Trust me.
No, and when we then go to court, will this have the standing of law?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a state law.
Well, this will revolutionize.
Well, that's the good news.
Don't
Let me
put
give
this
you
in
the
the
not
press
so good
report
news.
yet,
Okay.
Nathan, but I mean, this will be extraordinary.
It will be very, very significant, for sure. But here's the not so great news. You had asked me to contact ORPS and to get their support for this. Now, I also sent you the letter I received from James O'Keefe, who's the counsel to ORPS, our good friends at ORPS. And this is one of those situations where only the supervisor could respond. Essentially, he told me that while he reviewed our proposals, they are unable to take a position and therefore are neutral on this. And, if we want any support from the governor, we'd have to ask him directly. He copies this letter to Senator Oppenheimer and Assemblyman Latimer, and to Mr. Markowitz and Mr. Waller. Personally, I find this offensive. I mean, this is an entity that goes around the state and advocates for revow. They're in the town of Amerenik as I speak, talking about you got to do revow, you got to do revow, you got to do revow. Here, we ask as a revow community for support for very limited changes. I mean, these are not by any means off-the-wall extraordinary changes. They are neutral. They can't even support the one that Mitch pointed out about the 3-year freeze. But as Mr. Markowitz pointed out, revow communities are penalized by the existing state law. Penalized. ORPS, the #1 advocate for revow, neutral, will not take a position on it. I think you should contact Mr. Wallen in very, very strong terms. Now, he has a new boss, because Lee Kariakou was retired or moved on. So I don't know who's taken over, you might know. But they need to hear from the town of Rye as a revow community how truly outrageous this letter is, in my humble opinion.
Let me see you get a little exercise. You're starting to sound like...
Well, I'm going to be counting the table saying vote the revow, but when I saw this letter, I was shocked. I was shocked, because A, they drafted the language that we asked for, and B, it's consistent with a pro-revow stance, which they've taken, obviously, and yet they won't even lift a finger to help the town of Rye deal with certiorari's, which are supposed to be reduced by doing a revow, and we all know they're not.
Now, so if New York State were a member of the Community of Nations, it would be which country?
That's a good question. So my last comment is that at the last meeting, you had asked me to devise some criteria for renting space in return for community service. I prepared a memo with some ideas. Obviously, we're not going to discuss it tonight, but you can ruminate over these between now and the April meeting and decide if...
Oh, wonderful. Could you just broadly speaking, what you're sort of thinking?
Well, there were a couple of issues. I said that, first of all, it would be for 50% of the rent. I don't think there should be zero consideration. I said that the tenant or an employee would provide 10 hours a week in some form of community service, which including making its employees available for Meals on Wheels, work at the senior center, or some other community service. Secondly, they have to participate in at least 2 community-wide events, and that should be per year, actually, playing a leadership role, whether it be by Rye 350 or a large-scale recreation project sponsored by one of the villages. And thirdly, I said they should sponsor a concert over the summer at Rye Town Park, or at least play a significant role in sponsoring a summer concert at the park. Because I saw a recent memo from Mr. Nowotnik that the Friends or others are reducing their support for the concert program. And we feel that's a worthwhile program, and I think that if they're going to rent space in the town hall, maybe sponsoring a concert would be a good way to show community service. So my thinking is it would be a 50%, and then the other 50% would be money.
Well, thanks very much, Town Attorney. That's
But
actually
like I
very
said,
helpful.
these are not exclusive. I mean,
No, actually, I was going to suggest if you could just email this to the members of the board. What I'd like to invite the members of the board, because I think Town Attorney Noto is very much intending this as a start, and if there's other projects or ways you think that these groups can participate in the community, let's try and circulate this amongst ourselves and come up with a recommendation that we can vote on for the next meeting. This is a wonderful start. Thank you so much, Town Attorney Noto. Okay, I don't see Mr. Nardi here tonight. Good. Okay. I saw Mr. Nardi's sister when I went to vote today. So, okay, Councilwoman Mendocino? Okay. No. Councilman Neors?
No comment.
Deputy Supervisor Villanova?
No comment.
All right. Well, I'm actually going to take all you guys' time. No, I'm going to be very brief. This is from the New York. The journal the other day. New York State has nearly 5,000 taxing entities compared to 200. That is the average elsewhere in the country. So 5,000 versus an average of 200. I want to thank the board for supporting that resolution to eliminate the town of Rye. I think really it's an act of political courage. I think that There's very few governmental entities